Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for zooming in. And just a little bit about me. I've worked in energy efficiency and renewable energy for 30 years. The, for 7 years, I worked in residential energy efficiency, for 10 years in commercial and industrial energy efficiency, and for 7 years in industrial solar air heating, and also for 7 years in energy advocacy. I want to cover 3 points tonight. As, as activists, what do we really need to know about energy efficiency? And second, what are some of the best efficiency upgrades, with examples for our own homes? And third, how do we sell efficiency to politicians? The liberals, the federal liberals, are open to our message. We need to press them on this. So back to my first point. How much do we really need to know about energy efficiency as it relates to carbon dioxide reduction? We don't need to beat ourselves up that we don't know everything. In my 30 years working in energy efficiency, what have I achieved? Carbon dioxide is out of control. We're up to 420 parts per million on the positive side. In a tiny way, due to my efforts, but mainly due to mass production in factories all over the world, energy efficiency equipment, as well as solar and wind power, the cost has dramatically fallen. That's the good news. Mass production is working in our favor. Energy use is almost always part of a system. Your home heating system is your furnace, your ducting, the insulation. Your hot water system is the tank, the piping. Fixing an energy system can often have a terrific return by fixing the energy leaks in that system. And you save money two ways by fixing the energy leaks in a system. You save on the running cost, and you save on the capital cost by requiring smaller equipment to run the system. A related cousin of energy efficiency is load shifting. Does anyone know what save it till 7 means when it comes to electricity? Anyone?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's right. So it means you hit the timer button on your dishwasher or your clothes washer, and you save your electricity use during that afternoon peak time, and you push it into the late evening. The killer app of load shifting is my electric car. When I set the timer button for 7 o'clock, and it's about a third of my home electricity use is my car, I don't really care if it's 7 o'clock or 3 a.m. And if I had a smart charger and the utility had a program to notify my smart charger to start, then my smart charger can let my car soak up cheap excess electricity at 3 a.m. Energy efficiency is a huge field. You can spend all your time keeping up to date with the latest technology. We really, as activists, we really just need to know the key takeaway, and that is reducing energy cost. Reducing energy use is cost effective at reducing carbon dioxide, with the side benefit of comfort and enabling the solar and wind revolution underway all around the world. So I'm going to move into my second point, which is what are some of the best efficiency upgrades with examples for our homes. And there's a home in the background there showing some air leakage. So let's look at the general categories of energy efficiency. And this is setting aside my other example of load shifting. This is looking just at energy efficiency upgrades. Typically, the most cost-effective things you can do are controls. So you're adding here's a setback thermostat that controls, an automatic setback thermostat that controls your furnace. So you no longer have to remember to turn it down at night or if you're going to your cottage on the weekends. You can get a fancy Nest thermostat. For commercial buildings, it's a building automation system. For industry, it's speed control on fans and pumps. So that the return on investment for controls, just changing the way we operate existing equipment, the return on investment is anywhere from 4 months to 3 years payback. The next big basket of things we can do for energy efficiency is replacing equipment, changing your fridge, your furnace, putting in LED lights. For commercial buildings, it's upgrading the ventilation system. It could even be fuel switching for your home, switching to a heat pump. And the payback, the return on investment is typically 1 to 5 years for replacement of equipment. The next major category of efficiency is the building envelope, adding insulation or changing air leakage in your home or a office or an industrial building. And the payback there can be 3 to 15 years. Now 15 years, that's a tough sell. How do you sell a 15-year upgrade? Mm-hmm. Well, the city of Toronto is doing social housing efficiency upgrades, and there's a lot more benefits. There's reducing the heating costs, making them more affordable for the occupants. There's comfort improvements. There's extending the life of the buildings. And then back to your own home. Behind me is the U.S. Department of Energy guide to air sealing your home by making your home less drafty and better insulated. Means less gas burned in your furnace, and it means when your furnace wears out, you can buy a smaller, cheaper furnace. Now, before I get to the guide, if you actually want to do this, if you want to go into your attic and fix some air leaks, you're going to need a little mini snow shovel for your car, and you're going to use that to move the insulation, the blown-in insulation, so that you can see things and you can step on the wood and not go through your plaster into the room below. And you're also going to need a industrial respirator, and this has dust cartridges on it. You can have chemical cartridges if you're going to do some foaming. And you're going to need your spray foam. This is the spray foam gun. You can get the disposable ones for $10 at Home Depot. And then you're going to need some caulking. And you can use latex caulking for $2.50 a tube. You're going to need some better high temperature caulking for things like chimneys and pot lights. You'll need silicone caulking there. So let's move on to the guide. I'm just going to go to screen share. And it says host disabled participant screen sharing. So Ting, can you enable screen sharing? Ting, you're muted. You're muted.
Thank you. I'm just changing the settings, and I think this should allow you to share.
Okay, I got it now, yeah.
All participants. There we go. See if it works.
Okay. All right, can you see the guide?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Great. Okay, so if you have an attic in your house that you can get into, just zooming in here. So you need to go up into your attic. So D here is the hatch, and often the hatch has gaps around it, and that can be better sealed. And over here at D is the plumbing stack, and that's typically over your bathroom, and that's where the gases from your toilet get vented up through your ceiling and then through the roof. And if you have a can of spray foam, once you move the insulation aside, you can spray around the gap and seal it up. Mm-hmm. And this is a terrific guide. It even goes into the details of what you need to wear, the equipment to buy. They are big on using things like plastic bags with foam, with insulation inside it. I haven't used that too much. I just use the spray foam, kind of the one size fits all. And if it's a really big gap, I'll shove some insulation in a gap and then put spray foam on top of it. If it's a high temperature thing, like this is a chimney, then you need to use sheet metal with high temperature silicone. If you have an unfinished basement, then you can go in the basement and do some things there. And just scrolling down to see. So this is mainly the attic. So in your basement, I'll just zoom in here. Where the joists meet the wall, it's called the header. And typically spray foam is very cost effective for sealing up cracks and gaps there. And also your plumbing stack in the basement is typically accessible as well. So I'll share that link. I believe I already copied and pasted it into the docs. And so I just want to unshare now, and I'm going to click on stop share. There we go. Okay, so that was a little run through on some really cost-effective things you can do to fix up big air leaks in your house. If you have someone with a blower door come and do a energy audit on your home, they can walk through and show you these spots if they're skilled to do that. However, with COVID, they're probably going to take pictures and then send those pictures to you.
Bruce,
Yes.
I see a question from Lowell. I'm wondering if we should cover that before moving on.
Yes, absolutely. So that's what I meant by header, the rim joist.
Okay, thanks. And sorry, I want to bring up this, but the old style pot lights that's been installed in the ceilings, but they were so big, right? And they would take up all that space, and and the metal housing, it's not sealed, right? So
Correct.
yes, okay.
Yeah.
Is that a big problem? Not.
It can be significant, absolutely. And I addressed it by the book, which says build some sort of box above the pot light, and I did it with drywall.
Yeah.
You can do it with rigid foam, and then you try and seal it to the ceiling above. And I just found that extremely labor intensive because you're working up in the attic and you're building this box and you're sealing it up, and it's extremely dusty. And
Right.
And
Okay.
how do you get all the dust out of there and make a good seal? And so my recommendation is use a good silicone sealant and just seal the first. Change the lamp to LED,
Okay.
which is
Much smaller.
about 1/10 of the wattage, and so the heat is going to be much less. And just seal it up with silicone.
Just the seams between, like around the
All the
seam.
little
Okay.
holes in that metal box, just seal
Okay.
it up with
I
silicone.
see.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks.
And I just found that was so much less labor intensive. Now, if someone makes a mistake of going back and putting an incandescent lamp in there, it's going to perhaps heat up too much. So maybe a little sticker saying LED only.
Okay. All right. That's a good tip. Thanks.
So on to my third point, which was, how do we sell energy efficiency to politicians? Do we sell it as part of the Green New Deal? I don't see many mainstream politicians in Canada talking about a Green New Deal. I see a lot of them mentioning a pandemic recovery, or perhaps even a green pandemic recovery. So that's where we can really have influence. Energy efficiency has job-ready projects to implement today. And they take only days, or even in the longest case, up to a year to implement. Efficiency upgrades reduce living costs and improve indoor comfort. These are all selling points that we can make to politicians. Many efficiency measures have well-developed supply chains and are ready to scale rapidly. And then for Ontario politicians, their mantra is waste reduction. So helping Ontario businesses reduce energy waste makes them more competitive and better able to grow and innovate. On the federal level, carbon dioxide reduction is something that they're keyed into. Efficiency projects reduce electrical demand, enabling the reduction not only in Ontario of peaker plant operation, but in Alberta of coal plants. It directly reduces carbon dioxide in many provinces. And then the real business case is an average of 3 to 4 cents per kilowatt hour cost. That's lower than virtually all new generation. And another point that we can really push is that rebate programs for energy efficiency are an effective way of stimulating the energy efficiency industry, particularly as right now when carbon pricing is low. So to sum up, what do we as advocates need to know about energy efficiency? We really only need to know that the business case for efficiency is compelling. Energy efficiency is still the most cost-effective way of reducing carbon dioxide, and can do it in a politically neutral way if we sell it properly. And I don't mean to detract from the need for wind and solar with battery. They are vital for getting us off fossil fuels. My second point, to sum up, was the main categories, and this is just for our information. We don't need to know this as activists, but the main categories for efficiency upgrades are controls. That's usually the best, most cost-effective measure. Equipment replacement is usually the second best, and fixing leaks and insulating usually has the longer payback, but not always. As shown by the U.S. Department of Energy guide, there can be some really cost-effective ways to fix energy leaks in your home. So the third point, to sum up, if we're savvy about how we sell efficiency, every level of government can get on board with energy efficiency. Any further questions?
Thank you so much. What a great presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions?
Well, I could address yours, Rabia. You asked me if a heat pump made sense in a century-old house. Do you currently have ducting in your house?
Yes.
So I'm guessing you already have a high-efficiency furnace. Is that right?
No, we're working on replacing it now. No.
So it's a mid-efficiency furnace.
Yes.
That's actually quite rare. I did upwards of 2,500 to 3,000 home energy audits, and it was quite rare to find a mid-efficiency furnace. So congratulations on getting those savings, and you should notice quite a difference when you go to a high efficiency furnace.
Yeah.
And then your other question was, is it worth going to heat pump for that kind of house? And unless you do a thorough fix of your air leakage and your lack of insulation, you're going to need a pretty big heat pump. And the cost differential between a high efficiency furnace, which serves about 95% of the Canadian market, is forced air high efficiency furnaces. So it's a huge mass produced commodity item. You can get one installed for about $2,700.
Yeah.
And you may pay anywhere from 5 to 10 grand more to go to a heat pump system,
That's what I was seeing. Yeah.
an air source heat pump system. Now, in my experience doing home energy audits, I saw a handful of people going to ground source heat pumps, but they had done a really thorough job of fixing air leaks and insulating their homes, and they were still spending $20,000 to $30,000 for their ground source heat pump system.
Wow.
So it can be done for less, but the low end there. Now those folks were getting at the time. I think they were getting up to $5,000 back for that. Maybe it was $3,000. But so if you're in a house, I put in a heat pump, but just 3 months ago, and it only cost me $300. Incremental cost. So this is for it's called a mini split. Does anyone do you know what I mean by a mini split heat pump? It's like an air conditioner that they sell at well, any house without ducting has this. It's got this box on the outside mounted on the brick wall with pipes going inside. And so anyway, I was having a new mini split installed. Anyway, for air conditioning. And the difference in cost between a regular mini split air conditioner and a mini split heat pump was only $300. So I thought, what the hell? I'll get a heat pump for the $300 because I'm already. So it cost me $3 grand for an air conditioning system, and then another $300 to upgrade to the heat pump. Now, if you're doing a mini split system, they only serve one floor. If you've got an open plan, so if you've got a 3-story house, you need to buy 3 of the darn system. So that's you're up with tax. You're up to 10 grand.
Right.
I have a question.
Yes.
In the past, when they were talking, like, I don't know, many years ago, when they were talking about insulating houses, there was a concern about getting enough, or making houses airtight. There was a concern about getting enough fresh air in the house. Can you talk about that, please?
So, in my experience with Toronto homes, unless it's being operated as a rooming house and you've got 10 to 20 people in the house, you have absolutely no worry about making the house too airtight. You could spend $3,000 having a company doing air sealing on your home, and you're still not going to get anywhere near making it to the point that you're going to have to worry about mold. And a very cost-effective way to mitigate The most common mold situation, which is in your bathroom with showers, if you've got 3 teenagers and they're taking showers once or twice a day and long showers, then you might want to install an exhaust fan with a humidity sensor. And that exhaust fan will keep going until the humidity gets down to the right level. So as long as you have one of those fans, you're fine. And even in most homes, you don't need to worry about going too far. With the diagram behind me, you can address air leaks in the attic and in the basement, but you can't get to the air leaks in the walls. So you're only, in the best case, maybe only 50% improvement in air leakage, and you're still getting lots of air leakage.
I think Lowell has another question in the chat.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, yes, I actually have 2 now. Sorry, but the I was at the I was installing rain barrel actually with Ting the other month, last month, and it was a new house subdivision, and there was a vent next to the barrel that we were installing, and then I actually went on downstairs. It was in Markham, and it turned out to be in a heat ventilator recovery vent. So I guess they're being installed now, even in the new subdivisions.
Right.
Yes, and then the other thing I wanted to ask was about, I would hear these engineers talk about high velocity HVAC system. Are those like more powerful? Is that what they are? They use smaller ducts, and can I explain that if you? Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yes. So a friend of mine had a house similar to mine, which does not have a central duct system for a furnace. I have radiators, and then I have 2 heat recovery ventilators. And my friend was similarly didn't have central ducting, but she still wanted to have air conditioning. So the contractor installed one of these high velocity systems in the attic with these little, I think it was 2 or 3 inch, I think it's 2-inch diameter ducts. It kind of looks like the hose on a shop vac, and so it allows you to put in ducting and snake it through an attic in tight spaces and not have to put in big ducts. But it's generally, if you're trying to retrofit into an attic, it's in my experience, it's the wrong place to put ducts because it's not conditioned space and there's lots of connections on your duct. So the systems that I've seen like that have been far from ideal.
Okay, thanks. And then if you can maybe talk about the heat recovery ventilators, or if you're going to do that anyway. I'm sure.
Right.
Sorry.
So I had a century-old home, and I spent a year renovating it, and we removed all the plaster. We took it back to the double brick, and we did spray foam, which does 2 things. It seals and it insulates and allows, spray foam has, I think it's about R7.5, R8, so it doesn't take up too much space. It's very space efficient, and you can put in 4 inches and get about an R30 wall. And because I sealed my house so well, I needed lungs to my house. And so I put in 2 heat recovery ventilators that circulate, that bring in fresh air and take out the stale air. And I notice after 12 hours, if I've shut them off by mistake, I really smell it. And so if you seal your house, if you design it super tight, you need a heat recovery ventilator. I've in my experience of doing these about 3,000 home energy audits, I came across about 4 homes that had them installed, retrofitted, and they were homes that were leaky as heck, and the people didn't need them at all. and it was a complete waste of money. So you do that in a super tight house.
Okay, thanks.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Did you end up staying in that house, or like how
Yeah,
does
this
this
is my
work?
house.
Oh, great.
Mhm.
I should put the link to the blog. My wife documented it.
Oh, wow.
Bruce,
So
I've got a
what?
quick question.
Yes.
I'm wondering your experience. How efficient are homes in Toronto?
They're not.
Like, would you say it's something like 20%, like 70% that
So
are
here's
fairly
the
efficient?
as we all know, gentrification is happening. If they knock it down, then goodbye old inefficient house, and then a new one gets put up to code, and it's going to be reasonably efficient. But even some of those new to code houses are done in a sloppy way. But back to the housing stock that didn't get knocked down. If it's had a aesthetic renovation, and I've seen loads of aesthetic where the kitchen and the bathroom and maybe the basement gets redone, and they didn't bother to insulate the walls. So my guess is that south of Steeles, 60%, 2/3 of Toronto homes have no wall insulation.
Wow.
Mhm.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Thanks. Okay, but is that not? But the issue. I'm an architect. I'm a sole proprietor architect in North York. But when you're saying they have no insulation, does that mean they are wood frame backup, wood stud backup with fiberglass insulation, or are you?
No, I'm talking no insulation.
So so they're so it's a two wide brick wall. Then you're saying that?
So it's either double brick with 1x2 stringers, lath and plaster, and then in the 50s, 60s, up until the mid 70s, we were still building without insulation in the walls.
Okay.
It wasn't until I'm guessing it was the early 70s that and then for about 3 to 5 years, you'll find 1970s houses with about 1 inch of styrofoam. And then it was around 1979 or something that we came in with the 2x4 with the R12 wall.
Really? That's but would not. But those R12. I call them wood stud backup wall.
Yes.
With a brick veneer, if it.
Yes.
But
Yes.
Those I would imagine those are less like the solid brick might even be more airtight than those, wouldn't it?
No, sir. No, sir.
Really? Okay.
Because of this diagram, because of all of these spots, it's a
Okay.
Swiss cheese.
Okay.
It's not just the walls. It's all the penetrations for plumbing, and then the lath and plaster is on the brick, and the gap between the lath and plaster and the brick is a chimney, a thin chimney, all around the perimeter of the house, from the basement to the attic. And if you've got a 3-story house, you get the stack effect, and it's drawing the air from the basement to the attic around the whole perimeter of your house in a century-old house.
Oh, the heat is being lost.
That's right. The air is flowing. It's flowing up into the attic, and it's like a chimney all around the perimeter of the house. And it's houses were built that way up until the 30s, the 40s.
Interesting. The person who did my energy audit was saying that there's a company called Great Northern Insulation, I think, or Canadian Insulation, a Costco company, and that they, rather than you having to take down the plaster, they'll drill holes in and blow in insulation in that double brick plaster scenario.
And
So you,
what material are they blowing in?
yeah, that I, I think I don't remember what he said. I asked, but I don't remember. He said that it wouldn't be like it wouldn't qualify for a rebate because the R value would be fairly low.
Right. So I'm guessing it was the material that I sent you the link this afternoon. It's called Aircrete,
Aircrete.
and it's a foamed uh, cement product, and it's I saw recently good results from air leakage reduction when I was doing the blower door tests on homes that had had this done. However, I didn't do a heat photo analysis. I don't know of the quality of the evenness of the insulation.
Yeah.
And I would do more research on it before I had it done on my house. I sent you the link to I've got it here, green building website, buildinggreen.com. What is Aircrete? A deeper look at the insulation alternative. So I saw this done mainly on 1950s houses where it was fairly easy, I'm assuming, to find the gaps between the 1x2 strapping and the drywall. And I think a fair number of the lath and plaster homes have had this done as well. But I would suggest do some more research.
Mm-hmm. What would you be looking for when you're doing doing that research?
Well, I'd read this article in Building Green, and my question is, what's the long-term life of this stuff? And my home is century old, and I've noticed in the 9 years since I did the renovation that cracks. The house is still settling a bit, and there's one or two little cracks in the drywall. If it's this foam insulation, cement foam insulation, which is quite brittle, I'm assuming it would crack and leak if the house settled a bit.
Right.
Maybe that's a minor issue. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a non-issue. I would just look into more reviews of the product to see what other energy advocates are saying about it.
Thank you.
One other question, Bruce. I'm wondering if all the things we talk about are for summer and winter, or are these home efficiency improvements specific to different seasons?
No, absolutely. So summer and winter, absolutely, both. Yes.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Can I make another comment? If I can, it's about spray foam. Apparently now I'm in touch with this building supply person. Apparently, 3M now sells the new generation of spray foam. It's they claim that it doesn't give off any greenhouse gases because in the previous generation up until now, that the biggest problem with spray foam was that they would I think it's the gas.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, that would give off. But now apparently there's they've been waiting for like 10 years for this spray foam. Is that the case?
Absolutely. And I had this quandary when I was deciding whether to do spray foam. I was working with a consultant, and he said, Bruce, you don't want to touch this stuff. The carbon footprint is absolutely horrendous. It's not as it's being done. The foaming gas is locked up in my foam. It's when my house is demolished, and that gas gets released when they destroy the foam. So the foaming agent, it's a chlorofluorocarbon, um, has, you're right, it has a horrendous greenhouse footprint. And I dithered about this. Do I do a little bit of spray foam, and you can do a hybrid type of insulation where you do a thin coating of spray foam, and then you have bags in the walls, and you fill those with a loose insulation, and that's another option. And Europe has had this low carbon footprint gas for spray foam for about a decade. North America has lagged far behind, and it's good to hear that we finally got the regulations applied here.
Is there anything specific to look for, or do you just ask the person providing the spray foam if it's
what the foaming,
friendly?
ask them what the foaming agent is, the chemical composition, and then Google it. Google the carbon footprint of the foaming agent that they tell you they're using. And if they're using the wrong one, they're not going to tell you. They're just going to say it's environmentally safe. That's all they're going to say.
It's really an unpleasant process for people who are amateurs.
Yeah.
So I had part of my spray foam done with carbon dioxide spray foam. And so you think, wait a minute, that sounds terrible. But it's actually great, because carbon dioxide has compared to these other foaming agents, has a very low carbon footprint for the purpose it's being used, because you're using very little of the carbon dioxide to foam the foam. So for the biggest gaps in my ceiling, I used the carbon dioxide foam. And the downside to the carbon dioxide foam is that it has a lower R value, and it is doesn't do the air sealing quite as well. It does it perhaps 90% as good, and the R value is not as good. But that's another option, is this carbon dioxide spray foam, which is far better than the CFC spray foam.
So it's interesting that you say this. Like, you said that you saw south of Steeles, almost 2/3 of Toronto homes essentially have like no insulation.
Correct, because that was the city limit of Toronto up until about 1975. So all the homes within that old city limit were before the building code required wall insulation.
So do you find, so like, it sounds like there's a market for people to insulate their homes better, and yet, like, do you find that there are contractors who are available to do that work, who are reliable? Like,
well, the cheap, one of the low cost ways, as I mentioned to you in the email, was foam and stucco. If you're willing to change the appearance of your home, then that's a very cost-effective way, because it's extremely. If you've done the kitchen reno and you've got the fancy bathroom and you've got your crown molding and everything's really looking fancy in your home, then if you're going to come along and redo all the interior finishes and cabinetry and everything, that's a fortune.
yeah.
If you can simply do it on the outside of your home with foam and stucco, then you're not touching any of the interior work. But then you're changing the appearance of your house, and do you want to do that?
Right.
And then you can, most foam and stucco companies will just do 1.5 inches, 2 inches of the modest R value. What is it? It's about R6, I think, for expanded bead polystyrene. So maybe you're getting like R10 for an inch and a half of expanded bead. If you're doing 2 inches, you're getting maybe R12. But you can go way beyond that. You can do extruded higher quality foam. You could do 4 inches of extruded foam with an R value of 7. You could do maybe R28 on your exterior walls.
Sorry, with it, what you said with extruded foam? I didn't extruded.
That's right. Extruded polystyrene is a higher quality, more expensive, rigid insulation, and they can use that when they do foam and stucco.
This is really informative. Thank you.
And you don't have to do stucco. You could do metal siding. You could do vinyl siding on top of that.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, thank you. I'm glad to be with all of you.
Do others have other questions for Bruce?
Maybe I'll say. Do you think, Bruce, that is it, you know, like exterior insulation? Yes, it's more cost effective. Is it? Do you think it's possible to just apply that to like the bedroom areas? It would, but then because then the front of the house might, I don't know, but I guess you would have a bedroom in the front of the house too, but I guess, but at least you keep a little bit of brick, and then you have like a collage of you know,
so here's the problem. You get what's called thermal bridging. So the brick conducts the heat. So if you want to leave a nice brick face on the front of your house, then that brick is conducting the heat back into the bricks on the side up to 5-6 feet from the face of the house. So if you're going to do it right. And then the other thing with foam and stucco is you still need to do the stuff behind me. You still need to seal the basement and the attic cracks and gaps. So if you're doing an exterior insulation, you've got to attack the air leakage as well.
But it's just I guess I just want to say that, but you know, we spend so much, 8 hours a day, right, in the bedroom. So if you keep that warmer, then maybe the parts of the house could be, more leaking. But
right.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I saw all the time, and as I did home energy audits, was people getting a rebate for adding more insulation into the attic before they fixed the air leaks, and that made it harder to fix the air leaks, because now you've got 15, 18, 24 inches of loose blown in insulation, and then you've got to get your car snow shovel out and move all this insulation out of the way to find all of those cracks and gaps. So just to underline that, if you're thinking of doing a cheap thing to make your home more efficient, don't do the attic insulation first, do the air leaks first.
So do you find that people are essentially handling these air leaks themselves?
No, it's nasty, stoop labor work. Now, if you have some nice relaxing music and you give yourself a day and you've got your industrial respirator well adjusted and you've got your safety glasses and your knee pads, and it's the winter, so the attic is not too hot and you're not baking yourself, you're not getting heat exhaustion, then it's completely doable. As a white collar daytime home energy auditor, I went and did a few of these contracts. I went and did it myself. And um, it doesn't take a high degree of skill. It just takes time and attention to detail, and it's doable. It's cramped. It's awkward. There's mouse poop up there. Sometimes there's even raccoon poop, dried and fossilized, and even fossilized squirrels. But anyway, so it's doable, and it's there's a ton of YouTube videos on how to do it. Watch half a dozen and see if it's something you might like to try, and give it a shot.
If you can't do it, if you're not handy, who do you call? Like
Green Saver.
Green Saver, okay.
I think is the only one I know. There were a few zero draft contractors around Ontario. I don't know if they're still in business. Yes, Lowell. You're on mute. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, so many. And it's not a common practice, and it's not possible to do some of those leaks, caulking from the inside of the second story, like around the. You take the fixture out and you caulk around, or it's not.
Yes,
no,
yes.
Not,
pot lights. You can do the pot lights from below. And again, put a sticker on, LED only, or something, or take a marker on the inside of the pot light, LED or something, because you don't. Once you seal it up,
no air.
Those vents were there for a purpose. They were there to vent. You're sealing it, and you're putting in an. It takes 1/8 of the power, 1/8 of the heat now. But yes, it's completely doable from below. So take out the lamp holder, and put on a drop sheet on the floor. Put on old clothes that you can throw away, because you're going to get caulk on you. It's gonna be on you. And get your silicone, not latex. You want, and if you're worried about temperature, buy at Canadian Tire the fireplace silicone. It's a red color, red oxide color, because it's got iron oxide in, and it's good to something like, I think, 1,300 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay.
So use that, and just look up in the fixture and caulk all the little cracks in the pot light, and then put it back together, and away you go.
Thanks.
I've sent a bunch of emails to my Liberal MP on wind and solar and battery, and don't do small modular reactors, and don't do hydrogen, and I've mentioned efficiency in some of those letters, and along with wind and solar, and I think perhaps I should do 1 or 2 letters specifically on efficiency, and say that compared to small modular reactors and hydrogen, that this is far and away more effective at reducing carbon dioxide than those other technologies, which will be a decade away at least, whereas efficiency can help us literally tomorrow.
I think Ting is asking a good question in the chat, writing as Bruce Lynn, like what TEECC can do what role can we play given the kind of scene that you've laid out?
Well, I try and write a letter to my MP every 2 weeks, and you can you can write it to your media. You can have your personal blog. You can write it on your social media. Keep it simple. I'll copy and paste my presentation to the folder, and we can advocate. And I think we have a federal government that will listen. They are doing things, and here are some really good things they can do. And the more voices they hear, the better.
What specifically are you advocating for when you're writing?
So I'm advocating for reductions in carbon dioxide, and I'm suggesting that wind and solar with battery are the primary means, and I'm also saying that efficiency will enable that. I haven't written a letter specifically on efficiency and all the benefits of that, but I can see that I should.
This is great.
And of course, all the other issues, like stop the fossil subsidy. Like,
yes,
that's the total foundation. If we don't do that, then we're digging the hole we're trying to get out of. And I repeated that many times to my MP as well. Stop the subsidy.
Bruce, would you share an example of a letter that you've written that you feel like you're comfortable with us using as a template?
I try and make it short. I usually don't even. I just put it in point form. I just put, maybe 3. They don't have the time to read your letter. Just 3 points and a diagram. Copy and paste something out of a report. Go to a report somewhere that talks about I don't know. Lazard Investment Bank has for years now been showing the levelized cost of energy across sectors. So wind and solar, coal, hydroelectricity, nuclear. And it just keeps getting better and better. So solar and wind have won. Nuclear is not in the ballpark anymore. Even gas generation is barely competitive anymore with wind and solar. I just copied the diagram out of Lazard into my letter with 3 points and the link to Lazard and say, here it is. Don't listen to me, listen to a company that has thousands of analysts and smart people looking at the numbers, and listen to them. Or go to Michael Mann or someone and take a diagram that graphically shows the point you want to make and have 3 simple points. Just keep it simple.
Great.
Bruce, I'm not even sure if this is a good question, but would you say it's more important to focus on new developments or retrofitting existing houses? I guess there's more existing houses. There's probably more impact to be done there.
Yeah, I mean, standards are key. Our building code needs an update. Oh gosh, does it need an update? Net zero housing, it should be the standard now. Absolutely, it should be the standard. And the building trades have come a long way to know what to do, and they have the air leakage test to prove that they're doing it right. But there's all this old stock of housing, and there's all the clandestine renovations that get done, and so retrofit will continue to be really important as well.
Any other questions from folks? I think there's a lot for us to absorb and to mull over as we think through TEECC's role in advocacy.
Yeah, I think Michael, it's well, and Rabia, you posted those things that we could do to support the city's programs, such as the social housing upgrades and being involved there. And I think just using the basic points that are brought up, we don't need to know the depth of technology. We just need to know that we support efficiency and the way that it can cost effectively help.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people don't realize. I certainly didn't understand. So one of the first things is the energy audit to actually see, because once you see what's going on, but the energy audit itself is sort of the price of a new window. So like I've gone back and forth, like which do I do? So we bought a window. But I know other stuff that needs to be done, but not actually having the energy audit, but just for what you've been saying, stuff that needs to be done. But then I would have to tell a contractor, and presumably they'd understand. I don't know. But I guess if I went to Greensaver, I'd have better luck.
Right. I found a lot of insulation companies, when I was active in home energy audits, were getting into air sealing, but I found that a lot of them were very ineffective at doing it, and they didn't have a clue because they didn't have a blower door to check on their work and to show themselves what they were doing right and wrong.
Because it's a big investment if you don't see results, you know, like.
Right. And I guess the question is, what if you've done your energy audit by a separate company than the one that's doing the sealing?
Yeah.
Well, if the audit was done well, they should have a list of major air leakage points, or they may just have copied and pasted the U.S. Department of Energy list. Or when I was doing it, it was called the HOT 2000 energy software by the Canadian federal government, and then we had a boilerplate of text that just said these are the typical spots that air leakage is found, and you might address some of these spots. But if they're a skilled energy auditor, they would have directed you to some of the things you need to look at, specific to your house.
Oh, yes. And the city of Toronto has new initiative, I think, with Enbridge. It's called Better Homes TO, and there's like rebates for new equipment, and I think energy not modeling, but the
audit.
The audit, yeah, thanks.
Yes, so you need to have a gas meter, of course, and there's the program for free upgrades. So you need to be a low-income household and have a gas meter to get the free upgrades. And then the audit is, I think it's $600 total, and you get $550 rebate. Rabia, you know these rules, I think, better than I do. And then you need to do 3 measures, I believe, in so many months to get your money back through the rebates.
That's right. I have the criteria in front of me here. You can do the furnace boiler, the windows, doors, skylight, air sealing, replace the water heater, do basement insulation, wall insulation, and attic insulation. So there are new criteria as of September to get the rebates. I wonder, Ting, if we should stop the recording now, so then we can put up the talk and the Q&A.
Sure, I can do that.